Chairman, you may begin.
Thank you, Max. It is 10:30 a.m. and I'm calling the Environment Committee meeting to order for Friday, December 3rd. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be your new chair. I'm going to ask for a roll call. I've not met all of you, so I'm going to do it individually. And when we do that, or if we vote on anything, if you could just remember to raise your hand as well, so people in the watching online can identify you easily. Mr. Charlie Garlow.
Charlie Garlow is here.
Thanks. Heather Metz.
I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Catherine Bergwin.
Hi, everybody. Catherine Bergwin here.
Monique Buckles.
Monique Buckles here.
Eric Seward. Eric's not present. Joseph Vescio.
Joe's here.
Joe, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep, Vescio.
Vescio. Great.
Very close.
Mary Peck. I think I saw Mary on.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
here.
Great, thank you. Nettie Green.
Right here, Nettie.
Great. And Stuart Martins.
Hi, all. Stuart's here.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum and conduct business today. The last meeting was held on December 3rd. I've not received a copy of those minutes, so they're not embedded in the agenda. Who usually does the minutes?
I usually do them. And my understanding was that Dick was going to pass him on to you, but I can certainly pass him on.
I will
don't- at
follow
that
up
point,
and we will include that
hadn't
on the next.
Decided who was going to be the commissioner chair.
I will get those and we'll have them sent out and embedded in the next meeting. Correspondence, I've received no correspondence. Is there any correspondence that anyone can think of that should be part of the record?
Edward, this is Charlie. I believe I sent forward to you and/or Ann Wotton as well, perhaps, a copy of the proposal on the climate action plan. I don't know if you received that, but we can talk about it anyway, even if we don't have that piece of paper in front of you.
And we'll make sure that gets embedded in the agenda. I will resend that to you. On to old business. My understanding is that the table place cards had found funding and were in the printing process. But that's the last update I've received. So I don't know, Charlie or someone else on the committee here, if you can give an update.
I'd be glad to give an update. There are 2 boxes of the tabletop notices about Save a Turtle, Save a Straw, which are here at my house. And we distributed many of them, although we have a lot left over, let me tell you. And we found that there's a large, massive compliance with the idea of switching to paper straws or perhaps putting up the tabletop tent things. We may want to review whether or not more effort's needed on that front. Stuart and Nettie were some of our lead proponents of the tabletop stuff. Nettie or Stuart, do you want to add anything there?
I don't know how many have been distributed. I did the first 2 blocks of Rehoboth Avenue, and there was a lot of enthusiasm. And I mean, like Grottos took 65 of them, and they were just thrilled. I have gotten reports from a cooperating group that we have that's SOLA from Jan Conacy, and she said that her group is very much for this, and they were talking to a restaurant on Rehoboth Avenue, up on Rehoboth Avenue, where they knew nothing about it. So they certainly have not been distributed even throughout Rehoboth. I did have another Finn's was very interested, and that's also the Claw restaurant too. And they said that the folks out on the highway, but I'm not exactly sure that this is what our committee wants to get into, whether we are taking stuff to corresponding restaurants out on the highway or not. I also came upon Subway and Five Guys that are national concerns. And my feeling is that our committee, well, the commissioners, if we could have a letterhead paper that we could write to Subway and write to these national groups and say, this is what we're doing in Rehoboth. I think that would be good, because they can't just because we're in Rehoboth, do it. It would have to come from the commissioners. So that's all my impressions about it. It's a lot of work.
Okay, thank you. Joe.
Oh, yes, I had, along with Nettie, I agree. I had a lot of luck on Baltimore Avenue. Most of the restaurants I went to were very enthusiastic. They wanted to, participate. Some of them had already been using paper straws, but they still wanted the placards just, to promote the idea of the use of getting rid of plastic straws. It's kind of tricky working with restaurants because you have to find that sweet spot where they're not really busy before dinner rush and they have time to talk to you. So I was able to go to most restaurants, but I still need to return to Blue Moon and Cafe Azafran and DeFibo's just to talk with the manager because they were just too busy at the time. But also I talked to Aqua, to Katie at Aqua, and they're interested in doing some kind of environmental event. She didn't elaborate. She's not sure what that means, but they're going to be closing January 1st. So it might be worth a discussion in the early spring when they reopen, just to see exactly what they were talking about. But overall, I had a lot of success on Baltimore Avenue. It was encouraging to see.
Great. Stuart.
Yes, I've had limited success on the avenue immediately south of Rehoboth Avenue on that ocean block. Green Turtle, Mike, who's the manager of Green Turtle, they're undergoing renovations all winter, so they're closed until spring. But obviously with the name Green Turtle Restaurant and seeing the Green Turtle placards, he immediately took 35 placards and will be putting them on the tabletops in the spring. Zog's, which is a little bar tucked in somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but it's right on the ocean block. Jason, the manager, said he had to talk to the owner, and I've gone in there 3 times, still nothing, with no commitment or anything. Breakfast Guru, it's a small little breakfast restaurant on that block. Dennis, the owner, was very enthusiastic because he said all his people are environmentally friendly and animal friendly, so they took placards in it, and I've been back there several times. It's on every single table and on the bar. They have several placards on the bar, so they've had comments from customers. So it's at certain places it's working very well, but I think, as Joe said and Nettie, there are some definitely hills to climb on this. I was at Shore Break talking to Kate, the owner of Shore Break Lodge, and she doesn't put anything on her tables and doesn't want to, but she did put said she'll put 2 couple on her bar where they have some straws, and she'd also put it on the door. And as we said, the door is not point of sale. That's not probably that most ideal, but the fact that an owner is willing to put it on their doorfront is at least something. Mariachi should be a good place for us with lots of tabletops, but here again, they don't put anything on the tables because they put so many plates on the tables. They do chips, you get chips and salsa before you get anything. So, and that sits in the middle of the table, but they did take 10, and it was the nephew of the owner. So they're going to talk to her and see if she's willing to go all the way on it. Henlope and Oyster House, I talked with Chris, who's the manager there. He, again, for no reason, was not willing to put them up, but is willing to take one and put it on the door So that was their take on it. And I was at Confucius. The owner there is Sean, who is also their head chef. Sean took a couple. He says, we do not sell sodas. Basically, very few people drink sodas, but he took 3 of them and said that they would put them at the hostess stand and maybe put one on the door. So I've also talked to Main Street. Main Street has a couple of these placards and is supposedly talking to their board and or committees to see if they can't support us, because obviously a lot of the restaurants and stuff are members of Main Street Rehoboth. No word from Greer on that yet. Greer is the president of Main Street Rehoboth. The chamber also has a number of these placards, and they said they are willing to store them. And Charlie, that might be good for you, because I don't think it's going to be, these placards are not going to last out on your porch. I've been by to pick up a few of them, and we don't want them getting damp and wet and that stuff. So if Carol's willing to store them, we can always go there as our place to get them. But she was willing to store them, and she also was willing to put one of those member memos out to say, hey, that we've got these, come and pick them up. And I haven't seen that. She may have done it, but I have not seen it. But like, I guess, Nettie and Joe, you get some people that are very enthusiastic, and then you get others that are not. And when we're distributing these, I think that, to be totally truthful with the owners, we have to tell them, this is not a mandate. This is absolutely based on what the commissioners voted. This was unanimous, but it was voluntary. That is hurting our efforts, making it a voluntary type issue, in my opinion. And I hope that, Ed, that you understand that. And we're on the ground doing this stuff, and we could use all the help we could. But as Charlie said, there's a lot of restaurants who haven't even been approached. And we probably need to do a better job of canvassing and need all the help we can in getting full force. But it's a voluntary thing, and that's a definite issue that's hurting our efforts.
I'll certainly pass that information on. Go ahead, Nettie.
I also think, Stuart has followed up. I have not followed up. It's a very hard job just to go around and get the person that you need to speak to. But I have not followed up to, oh my goodness, you're putting them on your tables, you're doing this kind of thing. And I really think we need some type of seal from the city of Rehoboth that we could put on a restaurant, or give a restaurant some type of recognition that they're being green, that they're working on this. And we don't have anything like that. So we're kind of powerless, and it's kind of ineffective, because we don't have we're not hitting everybody, and it's not a mandate, and we have no reinforcement. We have no, and we're not dealing with the folks that are international, that are national and international concerns. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I will say, just I think working with Main Street and the chamber is a good way to get the information out with their newsletters. I know they hit all of the business managers and owners, and I think are getting a pretty high open rate. So I think that's a good way to inform the businesses that this program exists and these tabletops exist. In the chamber or Main Street may also be a good way to recognize these businesses. These businesses are dog friendly. These businesses are environmentally friendly. Identifying different aspects of businesses that appeal to people, and when they look to shop or buy or eat or drink, things that they care about, that they look for. So I encourage more of a partnership with those organizations, and I'll certainly pass your comments here to the city as well. Mary, did you have something to chime in, or?
Yeah, I just had a comment about how I went into Grotto's a couple of times, and they had the placards up, but the staff were still bringing the straws out. So I don't know what we can do about that, but again, I guess it's an educational issue or something.
Continued education, yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Catherine?
So I'm sorry if I don't know the answer, that I don't know the answer to this. Has the Cape Gazette done anything on this voluntary? I mean, it might be worth having an article, seeing if they want to write an article on it. And this idea, I like what you said, Ed, about having the chamber in Main Street, Rehoboth, putting something out saying these are the dog friendly, or maybe even the Cape Gazette does that. So here's all the environment stuff, whatever. Anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I'll certainly reach out to Chris Flood.
Okay.
Joe? I think, Joe, you're muted.
Sorry, Edward. Yeah, I could also talk with Camp Rehoboth and see if they would publish something in the letters publication, because that's widespread.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to spread the word also.
Certainly.
Nice.
Maybe it would be good for each of us to decide at this point what we're going to do about that, rather than leave the meeting. And I mean, like Joe, if you could deal with Camp Rehoboth, and
Sure.
Catherine, if you could do something with the Cape Gazette, you know. And I'd be glad to write a letter if I could have Rehoboth Beach letterhead to Five Guys and to Subway and to what we do at Rehoboth. But I don't know that I can speak, not being a commissioner.
Well, I think the action plan here is I'm going to speak to the city manager and the mayor about that. I'm going to reach out to the Cape Gazette.
Good.
And Joe, if you can reach out to Camp Rehoboth.
Sure.
And if we can, Stuart, I think you've already had discussions with Main Street, so maybe a follow-up with them. And if someone could reach out to the chamber, do we have a volunteer for that? Stuart? Okay, great. All right, with that, we do have a member of the public is in the room here, so I'm going to see if they have any comments.
Actually, I'm not. I'm Eric Seward.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Eric. Yep.
Sorry, not a member of the public. Eric Stewart has joined me here in the room. Eric, any comment for you on the tabletops?
No.
Just make sure you speak into the mic there.
No, I don't have any comments. I mean, I could reach out to Grotto's. I have somewhat of a history with Grotto Pizza. So if that's something that would force the issue, or are we going to wait to kind of do something a little bit more formally and not go individual? I could take a commitment to do that.
Thoughts on the committee?
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go to Grotto's and ask
Yeah, I can
about
talk
the
to Mike
fact that their
Jones.
placards are on the table, but they're still serving
Yeah.
the straws. Is that correct, Eric?
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
They're big in the community here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you had block captains to do the initial outreach. Is that true? Yeah. So I think Eric obviously has a relationship that he can reach out personally, but then I think it's is going to need to be up to the block captains to do any follow up and continued education going forward. And we may just want to formalize a plan for that in addition to these other efforts.
I'm sorry, what's the block captain?
I think Nettie, for instance, did the first block of
Gotcha.
Rehoboth, the first and second block of Rehoboth Avenue. I think Joe did Baltimore Avenue. Stewart did Wilmington. So that's what I'm referring to.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, just like Stuart, there are some people that I never spoke to. I mean, I never got up with them. And then the other people that I spoke to were very enthusiastic, but they were part of a national group, an international group. And so, I mean, I'd be glad to help craft a letter to international groups if you want me to work with you, Ed. But I don't know. I mean, I can go back and keep trying. I think we need some type of something from the commissioners, though, that has a little bit of power to it.
Okay.
Um,
And I certainly will follow up
yeah.
on that.
Ne-
With that,
ne-
yeah,
Oh,
Joe.
I'm sorry. Nettie, do you think it would be beneficial for us to come up with some kind of procedure? I don't want to get too prescriptive, but maybe some steps as follow-up that we could kind of try to standardize the procedure a little bit? Would that be helpful, do you think?
Maybe it would. I mean, we are nowhere near reaching everybody in Rehoboth, though. I mean,
Right.
just what Stuart and you and I have done is not reaching all the restaurants in Rehoboth. Some don't even know about it. Don't
Sure.
have a clue. Do not have a clue.
Well,
So-
like I said, I think one of the best next steps is going to be a citywide communication, whether that is through Main Street, whether it is through the chamber, a combination, a post on the city's website as well. So like I said, I think following up with those organizations, Camp Rehoboth has a lot of outreach. Those are going to be easy ways to get the word out.
Okay.
Edward, if anybody wants additional copies of the flyer, the tabletop, they are at my front porch, as Stuart mentioned, at 82 Sussex Street. Come on by anytime, whether I'm there or not. Help yourself to as many as you like. We've got plenty.
All right, great. I'm going to move on to the next agenda item. Continued discussion on the Sustainable Climate Action Plan. That was a previous agenda topic, and I included it to see if there was additional follow-up on that.
Yes, Edward, if I may.
Yeah, please.
To review the history briefly. A couple of years ago, we had a guest from Newark, Delaware, tell us climate action plan for their city. Bahar was a wonderful woman who came and spoke about. I was thinking maybe we could just take their climate action plan or sustainability action plan and scratch out Newark and write in Rehoboth Beach, and we'd be done. But it's not. Her recommendation was not make that simple. Be well advised to do what they did, which was to have the commissioners series of public forums or get the members of the community to see what to do by way of a climate action plan or sustainability action plan. I think that what they were suggesting was that it's good to have a firm goal to be reached, like zero carbon dioxide pollution by 2050 or several other and national governments, other companies, automobile companies, oil companies have been making pledges along that line so that we'd have a definite deadline to meet a goal that we set. And then the particulars of what people would do in order to get there, it could be something that would be worked out as part of these public forums. So basically what I'd like to do is make a motion that we propose to the commissioners, as was in the written proposal, which I'd sent around earlier, but we can send it around again, to hold these public forums and to establish goals for the city of Rehoboth to reduce our carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas pollution by dates certain.
Charlie, thanks for the update and review on that. It sounds like a reasonable thing. I would suspect that the mayor and commissioners are going to want some level of more in-depth recommendations coming from this group before moving forward. And it not be as
Certainly do our
broad.
recommendations, things like no idling of vehicles. There are lots of individual, particular, smaller items would add up to the total.
Right.
We can certainly add that to the proposal. But the idea was to get input from the public as to what those individual things might be that the city would do, but not specify all of them up front. Wait for that input from the citizens. That was their thought up in Newark.
And Charlie, your recommendation is that it would be the Board of Commissioners to hold those sort of public hearings and not this committee?
Well, I would certainly think that the commissioners might very well say that we, this committee, could run those meetings or to organize those meetings or to set them up. Certainly welcome to have the commissioners, however many can attend, to participate as well. So I'd be glad to have our committee of a mind to do so, to help run those public forums, however many we want to have and on what, and work those things. But yeah, that would be fine by me to have the Environment Committee be the sponsor of public forums to see what the people think.
Yeah, and I suspect, I mean, we're going through the CDP now, where I think there's going to be some overlap on some of these things as well.
What is CDP? What is CDP?
The Comprehensive Development Plan for this city. It's done every 10 years.
It seems to fit right in.
It certainly does, yeah.
Where is that at right now, as far as getting something out for public comment?
I believe that the Planning Commission has just sort of finalized the first draft, and are going through that first draft from the consultants. We will have a few joint meetings with the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners, and then some public hearings will follow.
Charlie just made a motion. So is this a formal motion, Charlie?
I'll leave that up to Edward. What do you want to do, Edward?
It didn't sound like a formal motion to me, but if you'd like to make one.
I'd be glad to make it a formal motion.
Okay.
So let me just, because I'm the secretary and I need to have this all clear. So the formal motion is that we are going to present the commissioners with our already put together sustainable climate action plan. I don't know that it makes sense to write another one. And that we would like to propose that the commissioners agree that we could set up, forums for the community to put in their input, correct?
I didn't hear it that way. I thought that the forums were like the first step that we wanted to do in order to develop the plan. But I could be wrong.
Charlie, do you want to make clear what your motion is?
Yes, I'll try. I would move that this committee recommend to the elected commissioners and the mayor that we establish a action plan, which would have goals.
Keep coming in and out, Charlie. Now you're cuckooing.
Charlie, the last thing we heard was goals, if you could pick up from there.
Enforceable goals to be determined by after the public hearings are held.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Nettie, I need a voting member to
Person
second.
from town, okay.
An in-town person, that would be
I
Mary
think
or somebody
if
else.
I could hear it, I didn't, like Charlie broke up and I couldn't really hear the proposal.
Okay, I'll try again. I propose that our committee recommend to the mayor and elected commissioners that City of Rehoboth establish a climate action plan, but in it, certain by
Keep coming in and out, Charlie.
would be reduced to levels that would be established coming out of public forums. How's that? Is that succinct enough?
All right, you keep coming out. Let me tell you what I got. Let me see if this is correct. So the motion is for this committee to make a recommendation to the mayor and the commissioners, the City of Rehoboth, that we establish a sustainable climate action plan with enforceable goals, that we propose a climate action, blah, 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 with enforceable goals that we establish after public hearings. Yes, no?
That sounds pretty good. If you'd like me to write it up, maybe that way would be
That sounds good.
easier for people to get their brains wrapped around it.
Perfect. Yep.
Sounds
Heather, please.
Yeah, Charlie, can I just ask a question? So just to be a little more specific, do you want to use your current climate action plan as sort of a skeleton framework and then have the public meetings, or do you want to completely start over?
That was my,
I'm confused because you did a lot of work.
Well, I put together a proposal. It was about 1 page, or maybe a little more than 1 page, which in essence was echoing what the city of Newark, Delaware had done. And that proposal, that earlier, the basis for our recommendation to the elected officials, the commissioners and the mayor. Now, they have to start from scratch, as if nothing has been done. I mean, we put some thought to it. The city of Newark has put a lot of thought to it and have held hearings, and they've got a set of.
Charlie, if I could make a recommendation, I think that we should have all of this in writing. You should draft exactly what you want the message to the mayor and commissioners to include, and what that recommendation says, and what backup documents should be included with it. And we receive all of that in writing and vote on this at the next meeting, would be my recommendation.
Okay, that I will make sure that writing that we wrote up before gets submitted to you, Edward, for conveying to the elected commissioners and mayor.
So my thought is that would come before this committee first, and we would vote
I see.
on that at the
Have
next
a vote
meeting.
on it in next month's meeting,
Yes.
and then see what comes of that
And
vote.
then at that point, what you draft will go to the mayor and commissioners.
Excellent. Do
So will you withdraw your motion?
Yes, I'll withdraw it for now in anticipation of bringing it up at our next meeting.
Okay, and we will anticipate getting a final version prior to the next meeting of the Environment Committee?
You bet.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Edward.
Next on the old business is a recap and any discussion from the previous meeting. A presentation was done by Adam Schlachter, the Environment Program Manager at DNREC. Is there, I didn't know if there was any follow-up discussion on this, so I put it on the agenda. Any thoughts from the committee members?
No.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, Edward, I don't think there was any really follow-up, but it was really an educational presentation by DNREC, and it was really wonderful. It was Edward, he's been working in this, Adam has been working in this field for many, many years, and I think he gave us some real clarity into the issues that the Delaware faces with recycling and stuff like that. So he should be, I would recommend that he'd be invited back at least once or twice a year to continue clarifying, because it's a very fluid situation with recycling and what they do with the machinery and the expenses involved and stuff like that. So he's been a real, I know Nettie and I both have talked with Adam and his colleague. So I think it would be very advantageous for the education, for the commissioners and our committee going forward.
And, you know,
Excellent.
I sent out an article to some of us. I'm always a little unsure about whether sending an article to the whole committee is a violation of FOIA or whatever that thing is called. But the Biden administration has authorized money to help communities with recycling. So can I this is a question for you, Ed, can I resubmit that article to the whole committee, or do I have to, is that like a FOIA? Is it FOIA?
It is FOIA. It's perfectly fine to send articles to the committee as long as you
Okay.
preface it. It's not to create a discussion. So
Right.
if you
It's
send it
just
for information purposes.
So I will find that and send that out again, because that might be something worth, I'm not sure. I just know there's money.
Right.
So how that can be gotten, maybe the article will review.
Sure, and I will forward it on to, or if you want to include them, that's fine too, the city manager and Evan Miller, who is our projects coordinator. He is kind
Okay,
of the city's guru at getting money, grant money from the state and federal government.
I'm sorry, tell me his last name again,
Evan Miller.
Miller. Okay. I can handle that.
Right.
Any other comments? Nettie?
Speaking of recycling, which Adam did a great deal, we do have, I understand, many recycling bins that go on every single avenue on the boardwalk that are in storage. And I move that the commissioners have these put out immediately
Well,
on the boardwalk.
I'm gonna stop you there.
Okay.
Because we're getting a little off topic, and we can't
Okay, sorry.
can't stray too far from the agenda items.
Okay.
But if we would like, I can put city recycling on the next agenda. If that's we can talk about that at the next agenda item to include. Item 7 is discuss items to include on future agendas. I'm sorry, Nettie, we have to be careful not to stray too far from what's
That's okay.
already on the agenda.
Fair.
Any other comments about the presentation by Adam? Okay, we'll move on to new business. I put this on the agenda, and it's a discussion of offshore wind farm plans. The mayor of Ocean City approached the city not too long ago, wanting the city to take a position on whether we are endorsing the wind farms or not. So I bring this up preliminarily to say that I would like to put it on the agenda to hear a presentation from the mayor of Ocean City and other groups that have thoughts on it or subject matter experts, so that we may make a recommendation to the mayor and commissioners on whether the city takes a position or not. So, I'm throwing that for discussion here today with all of you.
Do you happen to know their position on it?
I'm sorry, Ocean City?
Yeah.
I believe, I don't actually.
Okay. Mhm.
So is this to talk about the one project that's in the works right now, the Orsted project, or?
It would be, yeah. I think that's the only one that would impact our line of sight potentially at all.
Well, I think it's a good idea to listen to people and hear what they have to say, if that's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, that we just open it up to hear what they have to say and then consider whether we recommend that the city take a position, either positive or negative.
Right.
All right, great. Then I will add that to the next agenda. Any committee member comments? And Nettie here, you can feel free to say whatever you'd like. It just can't turn into a discussion.
I understand.
Any comments by anyone? Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on the windmill farm and taking a position, obviously before you want to take a position, you want to look at all the facts of the case. And I think that's going to require a lot of work on our part, a lot of research. And I've been looking into a little bit about what's been going on in Virginia, if you guys are interested. There are many concerns, and I think that in order to have any successful construction project, you have to look at all of the concerns. But I definitely think it's worth everyone getting educated about it, learning about it. If we get to the point where we can make a recommendation or form an opinion, that's a different story. But I definitely think it's would be really good for our committee to look into. So I have a couple of points today I can make, but I don't want to go too far off topic. So.
Yeah, I think it'll be on the next agenda, and we can dive deeper into the specifics of it.
And again, Heather, could you send us information? That would be helpful.
Yeah, it's, I can circulate some of the articles that have been written about, because they're planning on building them off the shore of Virginia Beach, and the Virginia state government is dealing with this as well. I can, but I don't know. Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I'll try to.
I'm just going to remind everyone, when we receive articles and presentations from and we're forwarding it, we're not creating a back and forth discussion via email. Yeah. And if you do, it's always a good idea, if you do have something to say, do not reply all. Reply just to the sender. It's usually a good rule of thumb. Any other committee comments? Eric, anything from you? No.
Good, thank you.
Good. All right, the next, go ahead. I can't see everyone on this one screen. So if you had something to say, just go ahead and speak up. Okay.
Hi, Edward. Charlie here. If you would like, I've got a few comments could be made to give some background on the wind farms and controversies, if you will, and the support surrounding this area. There is an effort on the state level to have a report being prepared by University of Delaware experts in this area called the Special Initiative on Offshore Wind. I don't know if anybody's been following their activities, but they are authorized, I guess it was, by Senator Stephanie Hansen, who's chair of the Senate Committee on Energy and the Environment, and the folks who are on this Special Initiative on Offshore Wind are preparing a report which would talk about the options that the state might want to choose from and recommendations on those topics. So that should be coming out shortly, maybe even by January. That would help to inform or give more details about what's planned, pros and cons, that sort of thing. So stay tuned for that one. There are also a number of other civic organizations, the League of Women Voters and others, the Air Club, who have been coming out in favor of the offshore wind farms. And so maybe we can share their positions and their information that they have with people on our committee as well. Is that doable?
Great, Charlie, thanks. So I'm going to step back. I skipped over discuss items to include on future agendas. The four things that I have is a recommendation of a sustainable climate action plan to go before the mayor and commissioners. Recycling, we've got the wind farms. And one thing I'm going to add is that the mayor and commissioners, we've just adopted a few very minor changes to the 5G wireless ordinance, which gives the city just a little bit more teeth in controlling what is done and how it looks. The ordinance was pretty simple, but where the teeth is really going to come is in the design manual, the wireless design manual. So I'd like to send that out to everyone and include that in one of our next meetings to get feedback on the recommended changes from our consultant. We've hired a consultant to guide us through this process, which we did far too late, but we've got it now and we're making the changes. So I'll send that out and we'll include it in one of our next agendas. Any other agenda topics that you all want to include, or if not immediately, sort of have on the horizon?
Got another one for you, Edward. When we have time to discuss the idea of
Charlie, you keep breaking up.
the elimination of.
You keep coming in and out, Charlie.
Keep coming in and out. Well, let me say this. I'm hoping that you can hear what my proposal or idea is, which is talking about
Just at the moment.
Pesticides.
We're on the edge of our
native
teeth.
plants
Have to write it on the
would
website.
protect pollinators.
On it.
Sorry, I didn't form my words very well there. A proposal to protect pollinators, that is bees, butterflies, and others that are essential parts of nature by banning or restricting the use of pesticides and promoting the use of native plants here in the city of Rehoboth Beach. Does that come through sufficiently clear?
That came down,
Gotcha.
that came through that time. So heard you loud and clear, and we will include, I don't think we can put it on the next agenda, but maybe one following the next.
Excellent idea.
Got that. So our next meeting,
I had one more thing, Ed.
Yeah,
And
please,
this
go
is
ahead.
kind of small, but the city has passed, like about a year ago, the silt fence requirement for the properties that were under the size limit for the state rules.
sure.
And so now I see the construction sites around town, silt fences that are down or not functioning. And one on my street, when it's raining, there's a lot of runoff, and there's no silt fence in the front. And I've written to the building inspector and I don't get any response. And I wonder if we could talk about what is the city doing to follow up or enforce the silt fence ordinance and, prevent all this runoff from construction sites.
I will ask for the building inspector to give us an update on the next meeting. Anything else?
Commissioner, can I also ask, when you give us the update regarding the changes to the design manual for wireless rollout, would you also be able to include kind of where we are now, if there have been any additional permit requests? I know we talked about, one of the things that we talked about in the proposal was the city having somewhere on the website where you could go and see what the status was, those requested, those permitted, those installed. I know Ann sent me a copy of that, but I don't think it's on the city website. I don't think it's accessible for everybody. I think you'd have to know to ask for it.
Okay.
But if you could just give us an update kind of on where we are, I hate to bug you guys all the time. At the next meeting, that would be super helpful.
Yeah, sure do. We'll
Look
do.
forward to seeing if there's any, in the design manual, any progress on the boardwalk.
Okay, we'll do. My understanding is everything was kind of on hold until the city finalized this process.
Good, thanks for letting us know.
All right,
Kudos
citizen.
to you, Heather, for getting that in there. That would have just gone whoop, over everybody's head, including Dewey Beach.
Okay, I've got our next meeting scheduled for January 7th at 10:30 a.m. Does this time work for everyone? It's a half hour later, but I think some of you do Meals on Wheels. So this half hour later was to accommodate those folks. Does this work for everyone?
At 10:30?
10:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, excellent. So that is our next meeting, January 7th at 10:30 a.m. There's no citizens for any public comment, so I'm going to call the meeting adjourned at 11:20 a.m. Thank you.